The Alberta Birds of Prey Centre is extremely important to the town of Coaldale, not only as a major tourist attraction, but also as a hidden gem that we have within our municipality. The original intent for the area was storm retention, and Colin Weir had a great idea. He wanted to incorporate the birds of prey into the facility, creating a wetland within town boundaries for our many residents and visitors to our community to enjoy.
We've been actually caring for orphaned and injured birds of prey here in Alberta since about 1983. We were the first non-government organization in the province to start doing this. And when we first proposed it to Fish and Wildlife back in the early 1980s, we were actually granted special ministerial permission to start possessing wildlife for the purpose of wildlife conservation, focusing on rescue and release.
So these guys are eating some nice cut up meat, and they're quite pampered. We have to prepare it for them every day. So for our day, it often starts ripping up dead animals and cutting them up, which isn't for everybody, but for us it's worth it because we get to see these guys grow up.
Yeah, so do cool things all the time. Like this guy right now, he's kind of bobbing his head a little bit, and that's him trying to figure out distances, kind of learning how far things are. Feed these guys as often as they want. So they'll be the ones to tell us when they want food, and they tell us by chirping and making noises. So whenever you come in the gift shop and they're making lots of noises like right now, that means they're hungry, just like a human baby almost. And then when they're quiet, that's when they're full. And when I'm kind of touching his face there, I'm just brushing his feathers. Those feathers do act kind of like whiskers on a cat. They are for sensation. So I brush his feathers and then he'll kind of turn his head a little bit. Since these guys don't have teeth and they don't chew their food, they swallow it whole. It needs to be kind of the perfect angle for them to swallow down their throat. It does look like this guy's getting a little full. We can tell that when he's not opening his mouth.
At the Alberta Birds of Prey Centre, we're also very pleased and proud to have one of the biggest eagle flight enclosures in the world, where the birds can fly around in complete circles and get an unlimited amount of exercise. And that gives us a place where we can house birds that are going back to the wild, and then we can also provide a forever home for some birds that can't survive in the wild, and they can act as possibly foster parents for other orphans that come in future years. One of the reasons we built our center and offered these interactive experiences is it can be an inspiring, life-changing moment for young people who come and visit us.
Hello, I am Cheyenne. I am a first-year student employee here at Alberta Birds of Prey Center. And I'm here with Jefferson, our mature bald eagle, and I'm just gonna give him a bit of a shower here. It's getting a little warm. It's a nice hot day today. So now when you come to Alberta Birds of Prey Center with your children or your grandchildren, we do allow them to shower off our bald eagles here after a flight show. And the reason for that is because we want them to stay at a really good temperature, and flying takes a lot of energy for these birds, and they do get quite warm, so they start panting, as well as sitting here in the sun sometimes. We do keep an eye on them to make sure that they're not too warm. And so we do just like to give them a little bit of a shower here, and kids really, really enjoy that. And we do want to get kids interested in the conservation of these animals here. Getting them here involved with helping us shower off the birds is really great to hopefully get them interested in coming back and possibly volunteering, possibly working with us. And that's just something that it's really important to us. Now you might be able to see here as the water's falling on Jefferson's face, he's kind of blinking there with a clear eyelid that you can see. Now that's a inner eyelid called the nictitating membrane, and it's just a clear eyelid that he can see through. And the purpose for that is to kind of act as a protector, as well as kind of a windshield wiper to keep his eyes clear, so that if he had to fly during a bit of a rain shower, he'd still be able to see where he's going. As well as you might be able to see some of the water droplets kind of just rolling right off of his feathers. And that's because eagles will secrete an oil that they spread over their wings to make them somewhat water resistant. And the reason for that is because bald eagles are great fishermen. They love hunting in the rivers, lakes, and oceans. And their main food source is fish. And so he needs to make sure that if he were to get a little bit wet, that his wings won't be completely soaked, so that he can still fly away and get out of the water with his food.
Another interpretive and interactive experience that we have here at the Alberta Birds of Prey Center are presentations or talks specifically about owls.
My name is Shar, and with me today I have Dexter. Do any of you know what type of owl he is? Small-eared owl? He's a short-eared owl, so you are right. Now Dexter is all fluffed out for you at the moment because he's actually a really aggressive species of owl. Now if you look at Dexter here, one of the most striking things about him is the color of his eyes. They're kind of a really bright yellowy orange. So because Dexter has an orangey yellow eye color, that means he is awake during the day. So he is diurnal as opposed to nocturnal. Now you can raise your hand for me if you think you've seen this type of owl before. Doesn't have to be in real life, maybe in a movie or a TV show. Does anyone know what type of owl this is? Yeah. So this is Athena, and she is a barn owl. She's very interested in some of the stuff you have over there. Beautiful little stretch there for you. See all of her feathers. Their feathers are so big, I know. She's one of our educational ambassadors. So this is a great horned owl, and his name is Blathers. You like his yellow eyes? So what have we learned about yellow eyes? What does that mean? You're right, it means they're awake during the day. Yeah, I like his yellow eyes too. They're really big, aren't they? He was rescued, so he's a local rescue, and somebody found him underneath a tree all by himself and brought him here to us. Just when he was a baby, a nice little pile of fluffy little feathers.
Throughout the day at the center, we do offer a number of different interactive experiences. One of them is we do flying demonstrations with some of our birds that are either permanent residents or ones that are going back to the wild. Through our flying demonstrations, what we're attempting to do is take the birds out of a traditional caged, captive environment where they're in a confined space and let them fly completely free so our visitors can get an idea of what these birds are like when they're flying and hunting in the wild. There's also benefits to the birds themselves because they get a lot of exercise, and it also helps keep their feathers in pristine condition, much better than if they're kept in a caged environment. When we are doing our flying demonstrations, we're actually using falconry techniques that have been around for thousands of years, when people used to go out with birds on their arms, go out hunting to put food on the tables, to bring back home to feed their families.
All right, so this here is Blue. She is one of our red-tailed hawks, and she is just finished doing a quick kind of training session. So you can see her chest is a little bit full there. That's where she's keeping all those really nice snacks that we just gave her. So she is in training. She did really, really good. Hopefully in a few days she'll be able to fly the full length of the field off the line. We do keep them on the line for the first little bit, just for their safety and ours, just to give them a little bit more confidence so they don't blow away in the wind.
Across North America and around the world, there's not many places where visitors can walk through the door that kids can actually reach out and touch a live owl, or just be able to get 2 or 3 feet away from a live eagle, or to see a live eagle fly by. Operating as an environmental learning facility and then opening up as a tourist attraction during the peak summer months is just a wonderful way for us to be able to inspire young minds by sharing our conservation work with a wide variety of visitors, and at a range that can vary from visiting school groups to seniors groups to just general tourists that are traveling across southern Alberta. And we try to give them an interactive experience that's available at few other places around the world. And even though we do have a fairly small facility physically, most people are pretty impressed both with the quality of our facilities and the quality of the experience that we're able to give them. Our knowledge with birds of prey is very, very narrow and is very, very focused, but we've got this beautiful ecosystem around us. One of the things that we really enjoy doing are bringing in specialists in other types of aspects of nature. One example of that is someone like Professor Pricklethorne, who came in this year and did a special weekend program on trees. Another one was when we have our annual Insect Discovery Day, when we bring in all the local entomologists from around the area to come in and do special presentations.
My name is Kevin Float. I'm a research scientist with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, working at the Lethbridge Research and Development Centre. The purpose of Insect Discovery Day is to allow children to experience the Bird of Prey Centre, which by itself is spectacular. But we also want to get people thinking about other types of wildlife, the six-legged creatures that roam around us, the insects. And we're specifically targeting young children. It's important for us to introduce young children to insects to overcome any bias they may have. So during this day, we have 3 main centers. We have an indoor center with preserved tropical insects for people to hold. We have a beehive with actual live bees that they can view. We also then have a second center, which we call the field center, and that's a site in a meadow where children can have butterfly nets and chase after dragonflies and butterflies and grasshoppers. And whatever they catch, they can put into a plastic cage and take a close look at. And then the third center is by a pond. We have a picnic table with aquaria, and children can catch snails, water bugs, little minnows, and put them in the aquariums so they can get a better look at these things. And then by all three stations, we have volunteers with expertise with insects, and they're there to help answer whatever questions they can. So by educating children about insects, we help them understand you don't have to kill everything. It's okay to conserve things, and in fact, conservation is to be encouraged, because by conserving insect diversity, you're actually helping to control some of those pest problems.
Most of the birds we look after are still fairly numerous in the wild. They are protected under federal and provincial wildlife regulations, but they're not considered endangered, with one or two exceptions. And one of the big exceptions on the Canadian prairies, and especially here in Alberta, is the burrowing owl. Burrowing owl populations over the past 30 or 40 years have declined very dramatically, to the point that they're now considered an endangered species in Canada. So for us, they're quite an important species to work with and be able to communicate to, especially to rural people, farmers, ranchers, people who work in rural areas such as in the oil patch, because their actions will have a great impact on the future of burrowing owl populations in the wild. In addition to environmental learning programs that we like to communicate their importance about, we also do have a captive breeding program. And the captive breeding program that we have for the owls in past years has helped us supply some burrowing owls to a few other facilities across Western Canada. So we have supplied some of our owls to Assiniboine Park Zoo in Manitoba, the Burrowing Owl Information Center in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, as well as the Calgary Zoo. And some of those birds in turn have been used for captive breeding to help supplement wild populations. One of the most exhilarating and fulfilling experiences for us is when we release these birds back to the wild. That actually accomplishes one of our main goals, is wildlife rescue and release. Usually when they come in and arrive at our center, they're here because of some unfortunate encounter with mankind. So what we try to do is bring them back to health and then set them free again when they're good and ready to survive on their own again. Just to see them soaring off, perfect physical condition, perfect feather condition, and we know that just because of our help and thanks to the support of all of our different donors and supporters, that these birds are getting a second chance back in the wild where they belong.